Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 91 of the Whitey and Will Sports Show. Today is Sunday, November 19th, 2023, which means that the boys basketball season for the state of Illinois is getting ready to start. We have got games as early as tomorrow. One of these coaches is going to be playing a game tomorrow, as a matter of fact. But we had the girls' coaches on last week from Effingham, St. Anthony, and Teutopolis. And so, as we have done now, this is the third straight season that we've been able to somehow talk these people into spending part of a Sunday evening with us. But we've got the boys coaches from those schools. And again, I'm going to introduce them clockwise on my screen, at least. I think this is how it appears online too. I guess I could have gone and looked sometime between last week and this week to make sure I'm right about this. But Obie Farmer from Effingham High School, he's with us. Obie, give him a wave, just in case anybody didn't know. And then Chet Reeder from Teutopolis High School, nice enough to join us. And of course, Cody Rincker from St. Anthony High School. Hi, Cody. Thanks so much to all three of you for taking a little bit of time out of your Sunday evenings to talk with us. We really do appreciate it. And again, boys basketball starts tomorrow. St. Anthony opens their season tomorrow, as a matter of fact, with their Thanksgiving tournament. And Effingham is also playing in that. T-Town's going back to the Capital Classic, a place that T-Town fans are familiar with. The Shoes spent a number of years playing in that Thanksgiving tournament not so long ago, and now they're going back to that. So we'll hit on all that, but with no other real scientific way of doing this other than St. Anthony plays first, I think I'm going to start with Cody Rincker. I think we're going to give every coach a little bit of time to talk about their teams, and Mike and I have some general questions. I think there's one we asked the girls' coaches that I want to ask the boys' coaches too, and we'll get to that in a minute. But Cody,
You gonna
we'll
steal my question, Whitey? That was a good question I had last
I'll give you credit. It was a good
week. Huh?
question. We'll get to it.
Huh?
But Cody, you guys play Rantoul tomorrow. You host the Thanksgiving tournament like you've done so many times, and you're coming off of a fourth straight regional, if we're not counting the COVID year, and we're not counting it because nobody got to win a regional that year. But you got a lot coming back. That's the first thing I noticed when I looked at your team. I mean, every roster has seniors graduate that they're going to miss and that were an important part of what they did, whether it was behind the scenes or on the court. But when I look at this roster you've got coming back, I mean, you got a lot of your scoring returning, and that's got to be exciting for you as the season gets underway.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is my 11th year, and I'm pretty sure in the 11 years I've been doing this, I've never had all three of my leading scorers back the following year. So that's a pretty exciting thing. Hopefully we have enough basketballs to go around to make sure that we get enough touches and guys, to enough time to get in the flow and all that stuff. But overall, all the guys we have back, we're looking forward to it and seeing how quickly we can get back in sync.
You mentioned 11 years. When you got into this, did you ever imagine that you'd have more than a decade in it? It seems like it's got to be a little surreal to just keep plugging away like this.
Yeah, that's what somebody asked me today. How long it's been? I said 11, and it really feels like it's flown by. Which is kind of scary to think about too at the same time. So, but it's been a lot of fun. Had a lot of good kids and a lot of good families I've gotten to work with. So this group's much of the same, and we're looking forward to hopefully continuing that trend that we've had here over the last 10 years.
Well, and speaking of not being able to believe a certain amount of years, Brock Fearday is a junior this year, and it's hard, I think, for everyone else in the area to think of that kid and how long he has been a top athlete at St. Anthony, and to understand that he's still not a senior. He's a junior for you guys, but he is basically, since he got the chance to take the floor, he has been putting the ball in the hole.
Yeah, Brock does a good job of just playing the game of basketball. Like he never, to me, seems to go out of his way until he really needs to try to score the basketball. I feel like he really plays within the system and within his own skill set. Fortunately for us, his skill set has grown over the last 2.5 years. I guess 2.5 year and a half that he started for us. So we're looking forward to what year 3 here has for him. like I said, he does a great job of just, always kind of being there, just being steady Eddie for us so many times. Hopefully this year we're kind of finding him excelling in that role and continuing to do and build on what he's done so far.
Now, he's not the only double-figure scorer you have back. I had Colin Westendorf around 11 points a game last year, and then Ryan Schmidt comes back. He was kind of your sixth man deluxe, right? Like a guy that probably could have started if you wanted to go that route. Could have started for a lot of teams, but really excelled in that role. And again, just a couple of guys any given night who can put a big number up if they need to, and they did on occasion.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan and Colin there have the ability to score a big number, which is the unique thing for me. Like I said, there to have enough basketballs to go around and make sure that everybody's getting enough touches and getting enough flow. But I'll tell you, this summer, I felt like Westendorf did a really good job of maybe taking on some other roles on the team, looking to be a defensive guy for us and guard the best player on the teams that we played in the summer. So we'll see kind of how that plays out here this week. With he's focusing more on there, it takes a little bit of his offense. So he does a good job, kind of like Brock there, playing within himself, understanding the moment on when he needs to go get a bucket for us, but at the same time playing within the offense. And then Ryan, like you said, Ryan's a microwave. That kid, he knows where the basket is, and you want him to know where the basket is, and he's always, ready to shoot it, and he's got a quick release, and he's really worked on his game to be able to score in a variety of ways. So, yeah. Just really excited there for Ryan to have the opportunity to start full time now and see what that brings for us.
And Max Koenig saw a lot of time last year. He's another senior on this team, along with Colin Westendorf. But what I also noticed, just kind of looking at the kids that you have, is that there's some pretty interesting athletes on your roster that haven't necessarily either seen a lot of varsity minutes or been healthy enough to play, varsity minutes, but I'm kind of interested to see how it all fits in. It seems like you've got a pretty deep pool of kids, like I said, just athletic kids that can probably get out there and make things interesting.
Yeah, like I said, you mentioned Max there a little bit. Max, he's a guy that really developed into that glue guy for us there last year. I mean, he came in as a sophomore, which hard to believe started 2 years ago, the last time he played Rantoul. Ended up putting up 20 points on 20 points on them off the bench, which kind of solidified his starting spot for the last 2 years. So excited to see how Max kind of performs here as a senior in that leadership role for us here. Like I said, then you mentioned our guys on the bench. We have a plethora of guys that are all working their tails off. I really feel like we have about 12 guys that I can put out there at any point in time and hold their own. And that's going to be the difficult part, but the fun part as well, because it makes practices really, really tough and really competitive. But yeah, I mean, Brady Hatton, just to mention a few here, Brady Hatton, his size and skill set, and he's been a kid who got hurt, didn't end up playing his freshman year, then got hurt in the middle of the season last year, so we've never really seen him on the court. So we're hoping this year that he can stay healthy and, be a guy that comes off the bench there for us and maybe see some time in the lineup. We'll see. But brings that versatility to the program. And then you got guards with Will Fearday and Nick Ruhal, both guys who just flat get after it. They can shoot the ball. They can what they lack in maybe size, they make up in heart and effort. So we're looking forward to seeing what those guys can bring to the squad this year too.
You talk about those competitive practices. That's invaluable, and that's a thing that people who just come to the games and who don't have that kind of access to your program on a day-to-day basis, they may not understand, but it's important. And I think any coach would agree, right? That being able to come in after school when you don't have a game and just have kids get in each other's kitchen for an hour and a half or 2 hours, that really pays dividends once the games start.
Yeah, we hope so anyway. That's what we talked about the last couple of days here, is we're not sure if our offense is that bad or if our defense is just that good or vice versa. So, and I can definitely tell our guys are ready to get somebody else across the sideline there from them so they can compete and not have to beat up on each other here like they have for the last 2 weeks.
Cody, I mean, I say if you start today, I guess you start tomorrow. Is Link going to be your point guard?
Yeah, I guess I didn't even mention him yet. Yeah, Sam Link's kind of kind of at the moment taking over that role for us. Sammy does a really good job of just leading the team. He got a lot of natural leadership ability. His voice, kind of like having another coach out there on the court, at least at the moment, seeing things the way that we see him and want to see him. So hopefully that'll translate. But he's done a really good job here so far, kind of taking those reins. And, was up and down last year, in and out of the lineup. It's always tough as a sophomore to kind of get that feel, especially when you got a senior and a senior and junior ahead of you at the time. But, now both those guys are gone. So he's kind of stepped right in there and kind of taken off for us.
I've got some inside information from your practice. That's why I wanted to ask about him. I guess kind of being the leader, and it's good to have a kid maybe, quoting Cody Rincker, I'm not sure we'll have enough balls on the floor, you kind of alluded to.
Yeah.
But it sounds like he's got everyone, and he's kind of taken over a little quarterbacking role. I guess Faraday maybe threw a pass away in practice, and you kind of got on him a little bit. And Sam said, "Coach, he doesn't pass often enough. That's all right. He'll learn. He'll learn." So, but yeah, I get it. I get to hear some inside information from your practices, and I haven't even been there.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. I don't know if I've even heard that one.
I got that from a fairly reliable source. So,
Sammy. Yeah, Sammy knows the guys. That's one of the things. The guys, he's got a great way of using that voice in a positive way, even if he's kind of giving some constructive criticism to his teammates or vice versa. Maybe sometimes it's keeping me on my toes as well. So sure. Yeah, he's been a pleasure.
And you kind of alluded to the fact, 11, 12, 13 kids at a time. And you're right, that is a double-edged sword, because there's nights when you get the tempo where you want it and kids are clicking offensively or defensively, and you can keep fresh legs and just literally cause a lot of problems for opponents. And then you have the flip side of the coin, maybe you have that game that's kind of a muck-it-up game and kids aren't getting their minutes. And it's rare to have all of those 12 or 13 understand it's a game of matchups and minutes come. And then you got kids, walking off the floor, leaving the locker room, hanging their head a little bit. Hey, I played 14 minutes last night. Tonight I got 3, And when you say that, I know exactly what you're talking about. My last year, that was exactly where we were. We had to become creative to try to make more things happen because we had kids who could play and try to keep them fresh. So, that'll be interesting, and it'll be fun to watch you guys, because I think that gives you some options a lot of times coaches don't have.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing you kind of alluded to there is, keeping everybody pulling in the same direction. I mean, that is difficult. You're working with 16, 17, 18-year-old kids who all want to go out there and contribute and be, not necessarily always the guy that makes the play or has, but they want to impact the game. They want to be a reason, that's why they're out here competing and doing what they're doing, especially at this level. I think the biggest thing there is just communication, talking to the guys and keeping them understanding of what we're doing and why we're doing it, whether you're on the bench or in practice or after practice. And I think the other thing is, the versatility. I think they all know, and I've told them this many times, while we could go 12 deep, I have yet to have a rotation of 12 guys ever, for longer than maybe 1 week at a time. So, that's just something we're going to have to work through and figure out. But the versatility that gives us is definitely something that we're looking forward to.
And one last thing I wanted to hit on before we move on is, like I mentioned, you guys won a 4th straight regional last year, got into that sectional at Altamont, and dropped a really tough game to Tuscola. 3 games in that sectional decided by a grand total of 9 points. So I know you had to feel as a group like you were right there. You had just as good a chance as anybody, to come out of that thing. While it's disappointing not to win it, I got to imagine that can be kind of a unifying factor, right? Something that everyone was there for and they could think about. And that's what, that's the next step they want to take as a group.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely the basketball world of it there. It's that, so how you got to take that and you got to use that as motivation, as that carrot still out there for us. But at the same time, I mean, these guys have had success in other sports. I mean, they're a motivated group of guys to be successful in all they're doing. So that's probably the thing I've noticed the most is it hasn't mattered whether it's, a layup line drill that we're going for points in so many minutes or seconds. We're actually getting out there 5-on-5. These guys are competing over every little thing. And that right there to me is what speaks volumes about how they're going to handle things like that. And then the motivation that they need really comes within more so than from externally.
All right. Well, I think with that said, I will move along to another coach. And Obie, I'm going to move on to you next. We talked about Cody having so many of his scorers back, and for you, it's quite the opposite. Some 90% of the scoring from last year graduated off of your team. It's almost a clean slate for you guys from that regard. And so you've had a lot of questions to answer in these first couple weeks of practice. How has that gone for you?
Well, when you graduate your leading scorers, that just means you're going to have new leading scorers.
Yeah.
So you just reload. You're right. There's been a lot of questions first couple of weeks, and when we first came in, we had 15 guys. We said, "Who knows? We're going to fill the roles we need." But it's going pretty well. Shaking out to about a 9-man rotation, and we're getting everything we need out of those 9. Albeit some of our guys are young, but they're a super gritty bunch. They're a group that I would take on the basketball court and in a fight in the back alley. So. I feel pretty good about, our toughness and our grit level with our group.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's some reasons why it's nice to come back for a season and kind of know what you're going to get from certain guys and what you can count on. But I have to imagine that, there's something enjoyable about being able to just sort of have that new block of clay and be able to try to do what you want with it. Right. I don't know. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. You get an opportunity it's like you're breaking away a little bit. You get a little more freedom. You got guys that have been filling all those minutes. You feel better about coming back and doing the same thing over and over again that they've been comfortable with. And so when you get a whole new group of guys, it's an opportunity to change things up and do some different stuff and kind of play with some schemes. And just like you said, it's like a block of clay. You can do about anything you want. And these guys have been really buying into that. Their focus has been great. Their effort's been, second to none. And they're stepping up and doing the things we need them to do to try to fill those roles we're trying to find.
So I don't know anyone in particular jumped out at you. I mean, I don't even exactly know where to begin as far as like, who might do what. I'm kind of curious myself to know, whose name I might be calling whenever we start doing your games this week.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we essentially graduate almost all of our points. But the biggest guy we've got coming back is Spencer Fox. Mm-hmm. He's nothing short of an extra coach on the court. There are often times where something will happen and I'm on my way out to the court to talk to somebody and he's beating me to the guy to fix what he was doing. He's like essentially, he's doing the same stuff that we would be doing between drills and between reps, just because he's so used to our system and our expectations. So he's definitely filled that leadership role. But I mean, we have Wade Busher coming back. He's a guy, he gave us minutes as a freshman. He was a defensive specialist for us last year, but, we're going to ask him to do a little bit more this year, over the summer and in the preseason. So far, he's handled the ball for us pretty well. And he's been a leader on the court. He's vocal. He tells guys where to go. He understands what we expect. He does a good job of putting people in the right positions. And then Ethan Jones got some minutes last year as a forward. Not very big, but an athletic kid who can elevate and plays around the rim and rebounds well. But outside of that, I mean, not a whole lot of experience coming back. But like I said, we got probably 9 guys that we could fill in here, there, and everywhere, just depending on what we need during the game.
And during the game, I mean, that's going to be kind of how you figure out who does what. I mean, it's one thing to practice and it's another thing to get out there in actual competition and see how people respond to that. And I guess you won't necessarily be 100% sure about what you're going to get from some guys, and until there's somebody in another jersey out there trying to stop them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That they do exactly what we want them to do during practice, but with a lack of experience, you don't know what they're going to do when the bright lights come on. But I think some of our optimism comes from, like I said at the beginning, we got some really tough kids. They're excited about stepping up to the task. So we trust them to be in those situations, and we trust them to do the right things to bring home W's for us.
And that toughness matters in the Apollo Conference too. I mean, it's
yeah.
It's a league where being able to play with a little chip on your shoulder sometimes certainly is a useful thing.
Yeah,
Obie,
absolutely.
I saw you kid your couple JV games last year. I did a few games on the radio, and I got to see your JV kids, and just the thing that probably impressed me the most about them was just the fact they just got after it.
Yeah.
I mean, and yeah, they were young. You had a lot of freshmen in that mix last year. Did they make some silly plays on occasion? Yeah, but you know what? They were going full speed when they made those mistakes. And the biggest thing I liked was they weren't afraid to guard people. I mean, they would get up and try to get after people when they could, and would cause some problems. So that part coming in, I mean, yeah, they're guarding different people, because a lot of those teams you're going to have more holdovers, than you guys. But from that aspect, I mean, I think you've at least got a good base to work with because they've shown they can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, they play with a chip on their shoulder. They hate to hear people say, well, you guys are going to be really young. I mean, although we will be, they play better than a bunch of sophomores, that's for sure. The one thing we told them is you can't play like sophomores. You got to play like juniors and seniors if you want to compete. And they've really embraced that.
Now, Obie, this is your fourth full season, but you got, I mean, the year that you stepped in, you coached a majority of the games. So you've been there a while now. You talk about your program, you talk about expectations. Do you feel like kids come in the door on the first day of practice having a pretty good handle of what it means to play in Obie Farmer's system and for his coaching staff?
Yeah, I think so. They hear from the guys from previous years that toughness, intensity go a long way, and effort, and they're going to have to get after people to be able to play. If not, then they enjoy watching the games from the sideline. But, if you can't do anything else, you better be able to get after people and bring some effort.
Yeah, and your season begins Tuesday. You've got Belleville East. Then you'll also be playing Rantoul and of course St. Anthony on Friday night. So the St. Anthony tournament, I think, I mean, with the field that's in there, you get your chance right away to sort of know how your kids stack up, right? Like it's a pretty good way to start the year.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was younger, I didn't know how to swim. They just threw me in the pool, right? So it's kind of the same thing we're doing with our sophomores here, trial by fire. So this first week they're going to figure it out. I mean, they have to. They're either going to sink or swim, and I think they'll swim with the kids I've got and their ability to step up to those challenges. I think they'll embrace it and they'll really get after it. And I think a lot of people will be impressed with our guys, regardless of their age, how hard they're going to play and the product they'll put on the floor.
And even if that doesn't, like, if there's times during a game where the flow doesn't lead to a lot of points being scored, I feel like what you're talking about probably lends itself to playing pretty tough defense, keeping the other team from getting on the board too much as well. I mean, is that what, with a young and experienced team, that do you feel that's what comes together first a lot of times, the defensive effort and being able to stop the other club?
Yeah, and that's what we spent a lot of time on. Just that expectation of what varsity defense is supposed to be. It's not the 6 o'clock game anymore, night in and night out. Now you're playing the later game, and the game changes. Where you could get away with some things of that early game, we don't get away with them in the varsity game. And like I've said a couple of times, they buy into that fact, and they want to try to put a perfect product on the floor, and they're doing all they can to make sure they're putting that out there.
All right, Mike, got anything else for Obie?
No, looking forward to looking forward to Friday night. I've been in Nashville the last couple of years. I haven't got to see that Friday night tilt in a few years. So
Yep.
told Zach we're not going, so he's coming home now. No, he was already gonna for the first time in a couple of years, he's been able to come home Thanksgiving. So yeah, we'll I get to go Friday night.
Excellent. All right, Chet, your turn. Obviously T-Town coming off of a trip to the Class 2A state tournament, coming off of a nice year, but you're probably, as far as the scoring goes, at least more in Obie's boat than Cody's, as far as having to replace quite a few points off of the roster. But you've got some pretty good experienced guys coming back as well. Sort of 50-50 between those two guys, I guess. It's you've got some guys that saw a lot of minutes coming back, but you have a lot to replace. I'm curious what you think about the upcoming season for T-Town, coming off of that third place finish up in Champaign.
Well, it's a lot of unknowns. Our guys are gonna we really don't know what where we're gonna be until we play our first game. We got Garrett and Joey, who obviously return a lot of minutes, and Mitch Custer got a lot of very valuable time in the postseason. But other than that, it's our next guys really didn't play. Tyler Prummer got a few minutes early in the season. Austin Blummer got a couple minutes here and there. But we're going to find out who we are on Friday and Saturday to really figure out what this group can do. But we're really excited about them. They compete every day, no matter what it is. They love playing defense. And I, kind of like what Cody said, I'm not sure if our offense is that bad or if our defense is that good or, whatever, but we're excited to figure out where we're at on Friday.
Well, so you mentioned Garrett Gaddis and Joey Nieberge. Tell me what it is they bring back to your team. Tell me what it is that they provide as senior leaders on this year's version of your team.
Well, both of them are excellent on both sides of the floor, which is great to have your best players who are also your best defenders as well. What they're both stepping out of their comfort zone a little bit more to be more vocal, because that's what we need out of them. That's one thing I'm probably hardest on them about is we need you to be our voice. We lost. We lost 5 great leaders, 5 guys that were all very vocal. So we need Joey and Garrett to be our voice. So they come a long way than that. They still got a long way to go. But they both lead by example very well. They have grabbed some of the younger guys. I see them in practice. They bring them over. They talk to them. They lead in their own way, and we're very demanding on them, but they've, like I said, they've gotten better each day.
And you talked about Friday and Saturday, the Capital Classic laid out a little differently than the St. Anthony tournament that T-Town has been in for the last several years. With the Thanksgiving tournament you're heading to, you play, it's 4 games in 2 days, right? So it's a lot. But what is that? What are the benefits to that? To playing 4 times in such a short amount of time? What does that tell you about a team when it's all said and done?
Well, it requires some toughness to be able to play 4 games in 2 days. We are excited about just a chance for our guys to get away and just be by themselves. With us hosting Christmas and with Effingham, our guys never really get a chance to get away from the community and just be them, in a hotel room. So that's the biggest thing that we're excited about to be able to do, to build some team camaraderie, build some relationships with each other. But yeah, I mean, to play 4 games in 2 days, that's, you find out who you are, you find out who can play. Guys get opportunities that maybe they wouldn't, because you got to rest, you got to get guys in and out. So, and I think that's kind of perfect for us going into this year, because, you know, we're trying to decide, you know, between 10 to 12 guys who's going to be our top 7 or 8 when January rolls around. So this will be a big test for them to start.
Chet, you mentioned Blummer, you mentioned Prummer, Mitch Custer. You know, and we got to see them get so many minutes off and on during the year. You know, like I said, Mitch played a lot of minutes postseason. You say trying to find that, you know, 7-8 man rotation out of that 10 to 12. Who are some of those other kids you think that you may are kind of in that pool today? I guess they'll probably get more minutes, obviously, this coming weekend than they will post, you know, January, obviously.
Right. Zach Nieberge's in there. Let's see. Ethan Taylor, he didn't play last year. He played as a freshman and sophomore. But he's our 8th senior. And Logan Lawson. Logan Lawson's our 8th senior. He's been very good. A guy that can play inside and out. And then, you know, Alex Kramer has been great these first 2 weeks, a junior, really attacking the rim well, starting to shoot it a little bit better. He's getting an understanding of our defensive philosophy a little bit more too. You know, Jake Busher's been very competitive down there with the bigs. Henry Thompson, another junior, and then Gavin Addis. That's our 12. Right now we're dressing 12. We got 3 spots left to fill, but those are our 12. Gavin's a sophomore, extremely talented, very high ceiling, but just he's still figuring out, you know, what varsity basketball is like.
And, you know, that's kind of typical T-Town names, because they've just about every one of those had an older brother probably play in the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years. So, you know, it's that's the thing I think is the biggest, you know, people always say, well, how does T-Town do it year in, year out? It's just, you know, families keep coming back. Families keep coming back. You know, another kid coming through. So, yeah. Now, question about Garrett Gass. I mean, and probably Cody's the only one who knows who Mike Wines is. I don't even know if Cody remembered Mike Wines. He was older than Cody. But Mike Wines had a tremendous junior season, scoring and doing things, because there was, you know, a Chris Bachler and a couple kids on the floor with him. All of a sudden, when he became a senior, he struggled a little bit earlier in the year because, hey, we have to guard this guy now. There's no Brendan and there's no Jimmer out here, you know. So how do you see Garrett adjusting to that? And, you know, because I'll tell you what, I love the way he plays defense. I mean, he has 2 chips on his shoulder, not just one.
Yeah. Garrett is, and I started talking to him a lot beginning of the summer, you know, and I told him, you know, you're no longer a secret that, you know, teams, you know, aren't going to have to make a halftime adjustment on you. You're at the top of the scouting report. So how are you going to score in different ways? How are you going to use your teammates to get you open, and how are you going to get your teammates open too? Like we talked a lot about, you know, when you do attack the rim, because he is very good at attacking the rim. And part of me wants to kick his butt because he never showed that until now. You know, and it's like my brother said, sometimes that senior, once they become a senior, it hits them all of a sudden and they start playing differently. But he knows that he can't just rely on his 3-point shot. He knows he has to sometimes drive and kick. He's been one of our best screeners in practice, getting other guys open, which in turn gets him open. So we've talked a lot, and with Joey too. You know, you are drawing the other team's best defender now, and right. sometimes 2 defenders. So, but that also opens up opportunities for those other guys that are stepping in. So that's going to be big too. If those guys coming in can, you know, knock down a couple shots and, you know, spread the floor out a little bit, that always helps too.
Well, I got to tell you, and this is no offense to any of the families, but I only heard you mention 2 people named Nieberge in that list of players. And it's awfully disappointing to me that I'm never going to have to navigate 3 different kids named Nieberge in the same starting lineup this year. That was always a unique challenge, but that goes back to what Mike was saying, right? There's just, that's T-Town for you, right? Strong families, good athletes, and a lot of commitment to the program.
Well, we've still got, this is our 3rd year in a row, freshman through senior. We've got 5 Nieberge still. So we got 2 freshmen, and Joey's got a junior brother. And then there's 1 in 8th grade, and that'll be it for a while.
Yep.
So
internally, you still have to be
sure.
Well, we keep telling Mitch Custer he needs to play like the 2000 version of Mitch Custer too.
I told Mitch he was not the real Mitch Custer a couple of times. He doesn't like that. He gives me a dirty look, and then, but that's good.
Mike, what else you got for Chet, or do we want to move on to couple of the general?
No, I think we're good. Like I said, I'm glad to hear those conversations with Garrett kind of preparing him for that, because it is a real thing. I mean, your game in the sectional last year. I mean, Randy Bishop was dead set. He was going to stop Brendan, and he was going to stop Seamer, and he was going to make someone else beat him. Well, someone else beat him. So, or at least sparked that way. So that's the thing. And like you said, you're not a secret. You're not an adjustment anymore. You are you're near the top of that scouting report. And it is a different world when you start drawing the best defenders. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Do I get asked my good question?
Yeah, you get to ask your good question. Go for it.
Yeah, see, now I've built it up so much. These guys are going, what the hell?
Yeah.
No, I really want to know how you feel going in with the new bonus rule. With the fouls, the 1-and-1 is gone. And it's kind of funny. We kind of got 2 different answers from the girls' coaches last week, really.
Well, I wish they would come out and just tell the truth of why they do it. It has nothing to do with safety.
What?
They want the game to go faster.
That's
been a lot of fouls
on
1-and-1.
I've been coaching basketball for 35 years. I've never seen an injury on a 1-and-1 ever. So
yeah, no different than if it'd be 2 shots. Either way, you're rebounding 1.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm dressing 15 just so I got another 15 extra fouls to give. I can get a couple extra ones every half now. So
I mean, I can see where you can be more aggressive to start the second and fourth quarter defensively, especially Cody in your position, having a lot of depth you feel from day one. I mean, that gives you some latitude. Okay, let's go out for a minute. You starters set and rest, and you guys play like a mixer out there, just blowing up the place. And if you pick up a couple fouls, that's okay, because we're starting all over.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how the refereeing handles that, because I'm sure there's a lot of folks, thinking the same way, force them to call them, see how quickly they're going to blow the whistle, and then to see how quickly teams adjust, and then if they continue to call them to put teams in the double bonus in the first quarter. So, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting. I mean, me personally, I'm kind of in favor for it. I like the idea of that resetting at the end of the quarter. Obviously, like you said, with the depth, I think that gives us a chance to get out there and just, do exactly what I said there. See how the refs are going to call it, and then make an adjustment from there. But I also really hate giving up fouls and really hate putting people, on the free throw line, especially if it's going to give them 2 shots in the first quarter. So I don't know. It's definitely interesting. I don't know. I've just seen it a few times, playing with it this summer. You don't really get the real feel for it because you're never shooting 1 shot for 2 all the time. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm holding my reservations on it and see if I actually like it until we actually play with it. So.
I think there's a lot of strategy involved. Like, say you're down 8 points to start the fourth quarter, like you almost need to start fouling to start the quarter just to, get 2 or 3 team fouls on your side, just in case, you don't want to be stuck with 2 minutes left in the game and you're only at 2 team fouls, and you're down 6 points,
And the 2 team fouls could have been 12 for the half.
Yeah.
I see your point there.
So I think we actually worked on it today. I said, hey, we're down 8, start the fourth quarter. You're not fouling on purpose, but when they put the ball on the floor, use your hands more, figure out, the officials got to figure out, are they going to call it or not? And then that kid has to, if they're not going to call it, that kid's got to handle that bump, that pressure, that, all that stuff. So, I think there's a little bit of strategy involved with, especially start the fourth quarter and you're losing.
Yeah, well, I think your team becomes a little bit of a gambler at that point, because it's okay to try to force those steals. If you're reaching a little, that's okay. But yeah, it's going to be interesting will free throw shooting change? Percentage of free throw shooting, your made percentages, do you think that'll change?
I would have kept the 1-on-1. I like I personally think I like the reset of every quarter, but I think it takes a little pressure off that kid that he knows he has two shots now. I wish they would have kept it maybe at foul 5 and 6, and then I don't know, something like that. But I don't know. I don't know how it's going to affect shooting percentage.
Like I said, I'm more curious on how they may come out and call it tight, and all of a sudden you got 3 fouls in the first 3 minutes of the ball game of that quarter. You get your 4th one at the 4-minute mark, and the last 4 minutes, are they going to continue to call fouls like they had the first 4 minutes? Or are they going to let the last part of the quarter be, a grunge match? So that's the part that I'm most, because if they keep calling it, well, they're going to shoot a lot of free throws. It's going to be a long game. It's not going to shorten the game at all. So,
well,
I don't know.
And that's something that, when we were talking to the girls' coaches last week, I think it was Jeff that mentioned that like you're already in a situation where it's more difficult than ever to find people to officiate these games. And it feels like maybe this makes it a little tougher for them to do their jobs because of some of that uncertainty about how a game should be called, or whether you need to turn it on and off. I don't know if that's just, he doesn't like the rule very much, and so that kind of is a subsidiary take of it, or if there's, is there, does anyone see it that way also?
I think you're still going to have officials who will influence the game by the way they call the game and change the way they call the game, and you'll have some that won't be affected by this rule at all. And you'll know who those people are as your season progresses. It's just like anything else. You see X, Y, and Z come out on your floor, you know what kind of a game is going to be. You know how you have to adjust. We can be more physical. We better take care of the ball more, or don't even look cross-eyed at another kid, because, that's how they're going to call it. Been there, done that. It's trust me, you have to adjust your game to how the game's being called.
Well, let me tell you, the biggest problem with this rule that nobody's touched on yet is that no scorebook out there accounts for it. And so I'm going to have to figure out some way to make these notations and not get myself confused. I've been keeping the book at a few of the Neoga junior high games just to try and get my sea legs under me. But yeah, and also, like, people who work at the scorers tables are gonna, there's probably going to be at least one situation where somebody forgets to reset those team fouls at the end of a quarter. I'm interested to see if anything like that ever goes on in a varsity game.
It's a point of emphasis. That'll be a point of emphasis.
I think we should throw the shot clock on them next, Dustin, for that point, right? Might as well add one more thing and put the shot clock in there.
I think we probably had a shot clock conversation with you guys last year, if I remember right, because that's been, and I'll never I'll probably never be in favor of it at the high school level, no matter how much it, how many arguments I hear in favor of it. But yeah, I don't know. I think I don't really have any strong opinions about this myself. I think it will be. I'm with all you guys though. I'm just interested to see how it changes things, or if it really. It might not make that big of a difference at all. Who knows? It could be. We're talking about it now, and in 4 months, everyone's like, I don't know why we invested so much brain energy in it. So
Effingham's got them installed. I know that because Mr. Walton's already talked to me. Well, we get him at T-Town, we can do it at the Christmas tournament. But
yeah,
in my opinion, it's a logistics nightmare finding someone to administer it, finding a seat at the frickin' scores table for it, because you've now got, at Effingham, you've got the person running the video board, so that's a spot at the table. You got both teams booked, put them up in no, they have to be there because they're important. And it's, you've got buildings that their scores tables aren't built to have that.
well, and also again, speaking from that Neoga perspective, you got to pay somebody else to do it too. It's some schools have that money to spare and some don't. So anyway, I don't know. I don't see that being an issue for a while yet. But what I do know is that all you guys have coaching staffs, and has anybody got any differences on their bench this year from last year, or is it same guys? Obie, what do you got going on the bench this year?
Yeah, so Coach Jones got a promotion at work, so he wasn't able to come back again as our JV coach. So Coach Tun was a volunteer last year, and he's moved up to that paid JV spot, and he's been awesome over the summer. I mean, he was doing my substitutions. He's in my ear about different things that we should try during the game, or different lineups or plays or sets or whatever, changing defenses up. He's been great so far. And at the fresh soft level, we lost one of our fresh soft coaches, and we hired Dustin Nichols from over in Cumberland area. So yeah, we got 2 new ones. So far they've done a great job. Looking to see how much better they even get with more experience that they should be obviously getting this year.
What about you, Chet?
Coach Toller left. He's the new head coach at Sullivan High School.
Mm-hmm.
That was our JV coach. So we scraped the bottom of the barrel and convinced Justin Fleener to be our JV coach. But Coach Fleener's been awesome. I couldn't have handpicked a better person. I was just so thankful that he wanted to do it. Have a guy with that, experience, coaching experience, that winning experience under his belt. I know it's a different sport, but it doesn't hurt to have a guy with 4 state titles on your bench.
Sure.
Dave Frummer's still the freshman coach. Luke and Chris Ungren are still volunteering, and then we also added Lee Hardick. He's doing some volunteer coaching for us as well. So it's I love having former players, guys that know the system, know the community. It's nice having a guy like Luke who, he got his fair share of butt chewings, and then he gets to, when I get on a guy, Luke gets to go over and talk to him and say, hey, this is what he's trying to get you to do. So, I really love our staff, and I'm excited about Justin.
Awesome. Cody, what's up with you guys?
Yeah, I got the same crew. Caleb Meddy there, still my JV coach. This will be his 11th year as well. And then I got Ben Gertz, who's back for another year, helping out our fresh soft program, and Coach Jerome is the head fresh soft coach there as well. So, they, like I said, we're starting to get in a little bit of a groove there with those guys. It's their 3rd year now with Jerome and Gertz. So, really appreciate all the help they do and everything they bring to the program as well.
Now, Cody,
Chip, Justin was on the bench 06 and 07, or at least I know he was 07.
Yeah.
I need to ask him, but he was with Coach Crawford in 06 and 07, and then he was with Lori.
Yes.
He's been to his fair share of state tournaments between the 3 sports.
Now, Cody, I wanted to ask you specifically, what's going to be more exciting, that that Effingham St. Anthony game Friday night in your gym, or an 8U fall baseball game over at the Corey League field?
Dust, that's a really it's a tough call there, but I'm pretty sure Friday night that's going to be a little more fun, a little more exciting, and the kids, I think will play with maybe a little more energy. I don't know if there will be as much excitement at the end of the game, no matter what happens, as there wasn't at 8U fall game. But it's going to be an exciting week of basketball for sure.
Might be about the same amount of scoring though. The point
total, there might be.
Yeah,
there might be.
But all you guys, I mean, you've had 2 weeks of practices, and I know that you really look forward, to that first practice and getting in the gym. But then when that 2 weeks is over and you get to this week, it's a whole different feel, isn't it? The night before that first game. Anyone can answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like those first 2 weeks were like heavy construction. I mean, especially for my group, we got all these younger guys coming in, in the last, on Saturday, and then on Monday we'll be more like polishing stuff up, the hay's in the barn, so to speak. So we're just kind of reminding them certain things to look for, and different keys for our offense, and different slides and positioning for our defense. And then we roll it out on Tuesday.
Anyone else want to touch on that?
I mean, yeah, like first week there was like we're stuck in the mud, weren't getting very far, and and then all of a sudden you get to week 2 and it's like, hey, we gotta add this and this and this, because we do have 4 games in the first week. So yeah, but by the end of it, it's that excitement of you feel like there's a lull about from Thursday the first week to Tuesday the second week. There's kind of a lull, like we're tired of this, but you turn the page, for us anyway, after the Meet the Bulldogs, and you can kind of see that light at the end of the tunnel, that there's going to be somebody else in a different jersey from a different school that we need to go play. Our last big practices really kind of turn up. So it was, it's exciting, and we'll look forward to seeing what tomorrow brings.
Cody, at least you don't lose most of week 2 to the senior retreat.
That's true.
That was probably the most interesting thing I've ever dealt with in my life. So just,
Yeah, how you lose. I only had to deal with that for a year. My first year, they still went on that retreat from the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, before we played on that, back when we played on the Tuesday yet. So I guess that's why we probably played on the Tuesday. At least had Monday practice. But yeah, that got moved relatively quickly in my tenure. Thank Mr. Fearday for that every year. Baseball gets to deal with it in spring, but they get 4,700 baseball games. So
yeah, that's true.
Well, Mike, we've had these guys on for almost an hour, so I don't want to keep them too much longer. But if you got anything else you want to touch on,
just hopefully I'll be getting you your links for the Christmas tournament to order your apparel, and make sure you order stuff for your kids. There are kids' sizes on that link, so make sure you do that. And yeah, look forward to seeing you guys this season. Hopefully, I'll get to be doing some more. Get to do some radio, and I'll try not to be overly critical of coaching decisions.
We'll quiet him down if he goes down that road. Don't worry. We'll push the dump button on him. All right. Well, if Mike's got nothing else, I'm going to let you guys go, but we do appreciate you taking the time. We're looking forward to watching all your teams. I know I'm going to be real excited to see everybody in the coming weeks, and good luck to everyone. It's going to be another fun year. It's a great area to cover basketball in, and you're all a big part of that. So appreciate the time, and we will let you guys bail out of here. And Mike and I are going to touch on a few other things before we go. So again, Obie Farmer from Effingham, Chet Reeder from T-Town, and Cody Rincker from St. Anthony. Thanks, guys, for taking part of your Sunday evening to be here with us.
Thanks for having us on.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Good luck this week, guys.
All right. We do. We love having these guys on. I think this is the third year, Mike, that we've been able to get all the
third year of our podcast. Third year we've done this. So why do we actually? I mean, we start getting busy now. Our viewership starts going up. People see if we're any smarter than we were last year, and that's usually not the case. But
there's only one way to find out. There's only one way to find out.
That's right. Tune in
on YouTube. You got to follow us on Facebook. You gotta share that stuff, and share this with some people that don't hear it, and maybe they'll tell you how stupid we are. It could be a nice conversation piece for you with your friends.
They'd have to get in line, but that's all right. Hey,
yeah.
I before we go any further,
yeah,
we got a shout out on Twitter. Did you see that?
I didn't.
Why?
Are you
Stacy Vonderheide. Let me see. I'll pull it up and read it verbatim.
Okay.
I was
Stacy
shocked.
Vonderheide, by the way, her St. Anthony Bulldogs off to a good start. They got a couple of wins this week. They beat Diederich, and then
all right, here you go.
Turn around, beat Sandoval.
Stacy tweeted this. If you want to know what's happening in local high school sports, give these guys a listen.
That's right. My new favorite.
And I told her I appreciated it, and I told her we may have to have her on as a guest, and she seemed pretty excited.
Idea. That's a good idea.
It would be. She's like a 9-sport athlete.
Yeah. Well, and you know how many points she scored in these first two games for St. Anthony?
Yeah, I saw that.
50 points in the first two games. But you want to know something? That's not even the most on the team.
No.
Nancy Ruhal dropped 37 the other night against Sandoval. She's got 53. So, they're pacing things, but that's a St. Anthony girls team they're going to win a lot of ball games this year. Okay.
Well, and they're going to be up tempo. They're going to do, I think, defensively going to create some things. They win 2 games this week?
Yeah, 2 games this week. Effingham got a couple of wins. I didn't see point totals for their game against Diederich. They did beat Robinson in their opener, 60-53.
And Robinson's got the sectional team. I saw him in the sectional last year.
It's Robinson's. There's usually some pretty good. There's what I'm saying. Like they usually are solid. And what I'm looking forward to, Alyssa Martin scored 17 in that game against Robinson. Avery Wolf 13. So your top 2 scorers were sophomores for Jeff.
Right.
Sage Altoff checked in with 11. But what I'm interested. So the Bob Curran's tournament starts over in Newton tomorrow.
Right.
And that kicks off for Effingham with a game against Altamont.
Ooh.
And I'm real interested to see how that one goes because Altamont's off to a good start.
That's tomorrow.
Back.
Is that tomorrow, Whitey? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's tomorrow.
Okay. Well, I'll have to look for Millie Line's notes on the X's website.
Yeah, that tomorrow being Monday, of course, in case you'd missed it. We're recording this on Sunday evening. But yeah, and speaking of people that we'd like to get on the show, I mentioned to you that I might like to try to talk to Craig Carr. He's the new coach at Altamont, and he's a guy that Effingham folks are, they know who Craig is, right? And I
could almost hit a driver from my front yard to his front yard.
Yeah,
if it wasn't for the trees and the houses, be close.
I mean, he walks into an interesting situation there in Altamont where they've obviously got probably the best individual player that the program's ever had. I hope I'm not selling anybody short there, but Grace Nelson is,
fair.
She's going to Illinois State. She scored 67 points in 2 games already, and that's just pretty normal output for her. But it's not easy to go into that situation because you've got the stud player, but you play with 5, you play with 8, actually 8 or 9 or 10, right? And so you got to figure out how to make that work. And that's a challenge, right? So even when your team's going to be good and win a lot of ball games, there is that challenge behind the scenes of making sure that everybody's happy and they understand what their role is and what it takes.
I don't think you're making sure everyone's happy. I think you have to make sure everyone understands their role.
Okay, you're right. I probably misspoke a little bit. Yeah, making sure everybody does what they need to do without being detrimental to the overall goals of the program. How's that?
Well, like I said to Cody, let's say first they play tomorrow night. First game, they come out and one of those young kids he mentioned, let's say one of those sophomores, Brent or Lauritzen, get 15 points off the bench. And then the next game they see 2 minutes because of matchups. So you have to deal with that. And, kids don't understand sometimes it's a game of matchups. I played a lot of minutes here. I didn't play a lot of minutes here. Some parents don't understand it's a game of matchups. Usually grandparents don't understand it's a game of matchups. But there's a lot of noise. And when you have a team with a lot of depth, man, when it's clicking and everyone's playing and getting their minutes and you're running up scores, it's awesome. But as soon as you have that game where little Johnny gets 30 seconds at the end of a quarter, they're pissed.
Yeah.
And that's the catch-22. That's the trap you sometimes fall into. And, it's I still remember, because I have the audio tape somewhere on an iPod, not an iPod. Yeah, an iPod.
Yeah. Okay.
Ronnie Nieberg's post-game show when they beat Diedrich in the regional semifinal in that incredible comeback. And how Brian Simple, his starting point guard, spent most of the game on the bench, but he was the most fired up in the locker room because, and Ronnie said, it's a game of matchups. And it wasn't a good matchup for him, And that happens. There's nights where, hey, this kid's a great set shooter. This team plays man-to-man, gets in your face. Maybe not a good matchup for him. Or this kid can't throw it in the ocean, and this team's going to play a 2-3 or stand there and let him shoot. Maybe not a good matchup for him. So, that's the thing, and most people, don't understand. Or
let me tell you something.
It's hard.
My daughter's she's in junior high now, and so she's been a cheerleader. So I've been to all the boys basketball games, since the season started. And I am ready to broadcast the game and sit up away from the people who are seeing the game through a certain color glasses, because it is unbelievable how people just see what they want to see because they're so invested in the outcome of that game, right? They're so invested in a certain kid's performances that they miss so much. A lot of times they miss a pretty good competition because they're just so hyper focused on what they want out of that game as opposed to what the game is giving them.
Well, and I love the famous over the back fan who's always screaming and yelling. But then on the other end, when their team does the same thing, wait a minute, you're not going to complain? No. And that's the thing. I can't, I have to usually set away from
the casual fans.
I just have to find a little place and hide.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Girls games, you mentioned Effingham got 2 wins. Anthony got 2 wins. T-Town 1-2, 0-3.
1-3.
1-3.
So they played Mount Vernon on their opening night Tuesday, got beat by 17, 69-52. Then they went to the Centralia tournament, played 3 games there, got beat by a Mater Dei team. I saw that this Mater Dei team had a girl who's 6 feet 6 inches tall, and she
was a volleyball. She's on their volleyball. She was their volleyball player.
She played, I think, limited minutes in that game because she's still kind of getting into shape. She was
still MVP of the tournament.
Yeah. But they lost that one 54-21. They beat Centralia 51-28 and then had to turn around and play Highland and lost that one 44-24. Now,
yeah. So Highland and Mater Dei, 2 teams that you run into in the very, very difficult Highland tournament.
Yeah, what I was getting to there is 1-3. You look at that and you're like, boy, that's but you got to look at some of the teams you're playing. I mean, Mount Vernon is they're no slouch either. So, you've played some incredibly difficult competition in that first week, but that's also what T-Town does. I mean, they set it up that way. Lori talked about how you challenge yourself in November, December, and January so that when February rolls around, you're ready. So it's a work in progress. The thing I've noticed from their scores is just, what we talked about with Lori. They're going to have to figure out where the points are coming from, and it hasn't quite clicked yet. And the other team probably has a lot to do with that too.
Sure. And, it's a case where, Lori mentioned they're going to have to get points out of their defense, and you're playing some really good squads who have maybe don't turn the ball over as much as you'd like. She wasn't going to be very big. Modern Day's got a girl 6'5", 6'6". Even though she were limited minutes, I saw her picture with the team being the MVP of the tournament.
Yeah.
So, it's a work in progress this year for them. And it's just going to see, but they'll get there.
Yeah.
They'll get there.
I mean, if you're going to have confidence in any program, to get it figured out, that's the one, right? There's and also another thing I wanted to touch on real quick is that National Trail Conference wise, you got a couple of freshmen whose names you're going to be hearing a lot this year. Windsor Stew Straws has a young lady by the name of Kendra Hayes. Now she's got an older sister, Samantha, who's a junior, who has been basically a varsity player since the beginning there. Kendra has scored 20 points in her first 2 games as a varsity player. And then down at Brownstown St. Elmo, you have, and if I butcher the pronunciation on her first name, I'm really sorry, but it's a Diana, Dayana, Hazlett is the last name though, which of course at Brownstown St. Elmo, it's no surprise to see a Hazlett over there, right?
But didn't she have a sister who was really good last year? Maybe a sister, I don't know.
I don't recall that name, but
okay.
I do know that she's.
No, you're right. It's not. I'm having a senior moment.
What I can tell you,
I'm thinking Hacker.
Absolute certainty is that she has been their leading scorer in each of their first 2 games. They beat Cumberland. She scored 16 points out of their 38. They beat Litchfield. She scored 18 points out of their 55.
Yeah.
So, and they still have Lexi Seabaugh, a senior, in there who has also been in double figures for 2 games. So I'm just saying that I think there's going to be, St. Anthony and Altamont are still going to kind of be the straw that stirs that National Trail girls drink, but you may see some shifting around as far as what some of the other top teams look like there.
Yep.
And I think Brownstown St. Elmo is one that you might want to keep an eye on as far as, being in that mix. So I think, that's kind of what I wanted to touch on, as far as first week girls scores. Of course, there's going to be a ton of games played this next week, boys and girls.
Yeah, boys and girls.
Everybody's
You're going to be busy compiling information, Marty, because I'm just the guest guy.
Yeah, I've got it down. I've got my little spreadsheets, and I'm getting better all the time about getting it done without taking up too much of my free time. But I enjoy it, and I'm really looking forward to putting these games on the radio. It's going to be a busy week for me at St. Anthony. Matt and I will be doing all the Effingham and St. Anthony games there. And that should be a good one. I think, I look at what Cody's got especially, and the season has to play out and people have to gel and figure it out. But I look at what he's got talent-wise, and I'm excited to see what they could become.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's gelling. I mean, it's sharing the juice. I always remember, I forget whose book I read, but it was a famous coach, and he talked about one time they played and they were traveling somewhere in a tournament in the off season, and he purposely had 13 bottles of Gatorade in the locker room after the game was over for the 15 kids to see if they would share. Because he said, if you're not going to frickin' share Gatorade, you're not going to share the ball.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, you got to pull the rope. It's just, again, the matchup in minutes, because you're not all going to, hey, you're going to get 7 minutes every night, Skippy, and you're going to get 12. Just don't work that way. And you just see what happens, and you have to avoid the problems in the, behind the scenes when kids don't start getting minutes. Or, you got a kid who's supposed to see a lot of minutes, all of a sudden doesn't perform, and a young kid starts out performing him. pretty soon by Christmas, those minutes start moving.
Right.
So it's just, I don't know. Probably the biggest thing I don't miss out of coaching is that aspect.
Is it more the kids or the parents, though, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
Just depends. Just depends.
Well,
the thing is, in having a
kids are influenced by their parents because trust me,
right. That's what I was
my
getting ready
kids
to say.
would go home and mom and dad would say that Wilson's a dumb SOB and da da da. And he cost you this and he cost us that, and
Yeah.
coaches get over blame on losses, and they get too much credit on big wins. I mean, really, you may draw up a great play, but kids have to execute for it to work.
Yeah, that's something I've tried to be cognizant of. Something I've tried to think about. As my oldest is starting to play, interscholastic sports and playing on teams that I don't coach, because up to this point I've pretty much coached everything that she's done. So we already knew she thought that coach was a dumbass. But now you got other coaches. You play for other people. And
I know, and you
got to as a parent, you have to think about that, right? Like, no matter what you think about a certain decision or a certain game, like you gotta understand that what you say is going. I mean, you like to think that it goes right in there, right? Like they still value your opinion, and so
right. And as a parent, I tried to be really careful of that. But did I question stuff? Yeah, that's just that's me. I'm sorry, and that's like I said, when I've had people ask me, to help with their programs, I always tell them you got to be careful what you ask for because I'm not a yes man.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
it is what it is.
Before we go, I just wanted to know if Indiana played today.
I thought we would talk about that pre-show, so I didn't have to talk about it on the show. I actually posted on Facebook. It was such a hard game to watch. Whitey, my daughter is at the Illinois game tonight. Morgan's at the Illinois game, so she sent a picture, and then Jessica says, "Oh, nice little gym. It's not IU." And so I had to get in the middle while we're doing our show, saying, "Hey, Indiana's got a better facility, but Illinois may have the better team."
Well, I don't know.
I hate to see 5-star recruits who get talked about how great they are and who are cashing a big NIL check. I know that. And maybe get drug out of a car in the parking lot of a Taco Bell and can't guard you or I. I'm sorry.
I will say
when you're playing the defending national champs in Madison Square Garden and you can't play, your off the ball defense is non-existent. And your on the ball defense is almost non-existent.
And I will, yeah, in all fairness, in this discussion of Illinois and Indiana tonight, Illinois is playing Southern University and Indiana was playing the number 5 team in the country. So,
I did point that out to a few people.
But Illinois' non-conference schedule is funny because they're either playing like an amazing team or an absolute bottom of the barrel, in the 300s nationally ranked type of team.
I had an Illinois fan tell me, "Hey, we beat Kansas." I said, "You played them a practice game. We play them in a regular season game, and they come to Assembly Hall, and that's probably going to be ugly because I think the students will be gone. So I don't know who's going to be there to give Hunter Dickinson a IU welcome back."
Having big games when students aren't around, like it's a little deflating, I would think. It seems like
atmosphere is tough. I remember going up, we won tickets years ago to see Illinois play Coppin State, and the students were gone. So we had Orange Crush tickets in essence. They were someone had got them and given to us. There was a drawing. We got them in, and not the same atmosphere whatsoever. There's just nothing like, the students, their enthusiasm, their wit. You listen to some of those things they say, Whitey, they're pretty damn funny.
Well, and it's a loud building too. I mean, it's
but IU is a louder building. It's configured different. You're not the upper deck. You're hanging out over the floor. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Maybe I'll take you to a game there sometime.
Boy, I don't know. It's a long time in the car to have to hear about how great Indiana, how great this is going to be and how much I'm going to love it. Like
hour and 50-minute drive, Whitey. I can get you there in an hour and 50 minutes.
Well, it's not much longer than it took, get up to Bloomington to do some volleyball games. So
yeah. Yeah. So next week I'm a couple different guests I'm working on. So we'll see. Basketball related.
Sounds good. I will certainly have seen some basketball by then.
I'll probably come to the St. Anthony Thanksgiving tournament quite a bit. I'll probably be signing in as your spotter, and or I'm scouting because I'm looking at, helps me with seating because now I got to get to work and figure out seatings for the Christmas tournament because that's going to be done in about 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks.
You got that NFHS network subscription up and running?
I keep being told we have one of our members or two have one, and then I always ask for information, how to get into it, passwords, and I never get those texts answered. So
yeah, I'm going to have to re-up mine. I only keep it for basketball season, but I'm missing it already with trying to, just see how some games went, right? Some schools put their stuff out on YouTube and stuff like that, but this is
I don't mind the NFHS. I like watching it because I see a score. I want to see people in person. I got a text message from Lincoln Way East coach. He sent me a schedule, and I know they have a very difficult early season schedule, which for them isn't good because, they still got a football game next week. And he's missing now. He's got a lot of guards, and I don't think any of his guards are football players, but you've got some kids I read a lot about who are really good getting some D1 offers.
All right. Well, anything else we need to hit on, or should we call it?
I know it's going to be hard to believe, but Aaron Nola did not sign with the Cardinals. So
so he's going back to
Cardinals didn't even have a conversation with him and his agent.
Well, I don't know. It was a pretty quick. Yeah,
but you at least day one when it opens up, if you really want to just say, I heard he was going to stay. No, you at least reach out to him. You at least reach out to him and say, hey, we're interested. We'd like to talk if you get that far down your journey.
I'm guessing he didn't want to go anywhere else.
No, it sounded like it. It sounded like he was very happy at Philly, and good for him.
The funniest thing I hear people say about a contract like that is, well, I don't mind the money, but that's too many years. And it's like, well, years are money. Like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it's baseball, right? That's guaranteed. It's guaranteed money. So the years are the money. Like the team, and teams are always going to overpay a little bit in years to get a guy because they want, know he's probably not going to be very good when he's 37, but they want you're spreading that money out to get those 3 or 4 more years where he's in his prime. So
and I read an article today. We may be seeing our first glaring casualty of the NIL.
What's that?
Miss Angela Reese at LSU.
Oh yeah, it sounds like it's not real. Doesn't sound like it's real. I don't know that her and Kim Mulkey are going to send each other Christmas cards this year.
Well, I think it's what I've read is, and I heard an interview with Kim Mulkey, a couple of them actually. When she came on the campus to start the year, she was exhausted from all of her things she was doing involving NIL-ish stuff. Yeah. So I think there was some stuff there. And again, when you're making the kind of money I'm sure this young lady is making, I'm sure, unfortunately, I don't think there is a emphasis on attending class.
Yeah, I will just, as the devil's advocate here, say that Kim Mulkey very clearly doesn't like the system.
And
I understand. And Kim Mulkey is looking out for Kim Mulkey first. And
what?
very interested in Kim Mulkey's image and what people say about Kim Mulkey and what she wore on the sideline that night. And so she will, if she sees that the results on the floor are not coming, she is going to make sure that everybody understands that it's somebody else's fault.
Right. But I guess the thing I heard her say, and she wasn't being derogatory towards her star player, but and I kind of question it when I see other things. If you've got a six-figure check, or some of these kids, Arch Manning is getting millions in NIL money. Whitey,
yeah,
he hasn't taken a snap, and they're talking about he may be transferring from Texas.
Yeah, I
but
mean,
I don't know how hungry a kid's going to be, because I think they say, well, I'm making X, I'll just eventually play out my string and then go to the next level. And it's going to be interesting how this generation of athletes perform on through the next level, because they've had it,
Well, and yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not like saying it's all sunshine and roses. I think that any big change leads to negative consequences that nobody anticipated, because that's just
sure.
That's how these things go. For the NCAA, I mean, I think it could be the end of doing things the way that the NCAA has done things for a long time, and that's bad and good depending on
Is there such thing as a recruiting violation anymore?
Well, I don't know, but some of the recruiting violations that people got dinged for, or in some cases, hammered for, or other rule breaking,
a lot of minor,
some of the rules
a lot of teams did very minor things and got poked pretty hard.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll wait and see, but I mean, listen, college sports has always been a minor league for professional sports, and so it's just working in a little different way. Adjustments have to be made, and we'll wait and see whether any of it's been good or not. But yeah, certainly some unintended negative consequences, and we're seeing that at LSU. So
yeah, and I hope the young lady gets everything straightened out and becomes a pretty good player, because she's very talented.
Yeah, I think I would still bet the over on her career when it's all said and done. But as for what that means, for LSU this year, yeah, I don't know. It's at the moment not looking great, but it's early
because they got the good player from Louisville.
Right? Yeah. All right. Hey, we're like almost an hour and a half in, so
I know we're up against it. This is
even the people who think highly of us, and there are a handful of them. They're probably like, it's time to cut it out, boys. I want to, I got
your parents, my parents. That's 4.
Well, just my dad. I'm not sure how much.
Okay. Yeah, that's the same. I don't think my mom knows I have a podcast. So.
but yeah, that's fun to hear. And let me tell you something. I had somebody come up to me outside the arena in Bloomington Normal a couple weeks ago and tell me that I had made some crack about, we have, a few dozen or so people watching this, and she's like, I'm one of them. So I just wanted you to know. So I thought that was,
wow, you should have got a selfie with them and sent it to
me. It was nice. And again, if you're hearing this and you like what you hear, share it around a little bit, spread the wealth.
Get to 200 subscribers. That's our next goal. We got to get to 200.
Yeah. I think we can do it by the end of the year.
I think we'll get Stacy Vonderhyde as a guest and make all the Vonderhyde relatives become
all the relatives, and listen, she's a kid. She's got lots of friends. She plays all these sports. She's well connected, I'm sure. So she can. Yeah, we need to work on that. We need to work on that for sure.
All
right. That's a good one to close on. So, yeah, week from now we'll have lots of basketball to talk about, and come on back and hear what we've got to say about it. Until then, Mike, let's take it easy.
All right. See you, Whitey.
Later.